We did it in Acadia, we did it in Moab, and we're going to do it here in Oregon. As you guys, I think, all know, Nick is the host of the Landscape Photography Podcast, and this is a live episode of Landscape Photography Podcast. Yeah. Take it away, Nick.
And it's also being streamed live to YouTube right now, so you guys need to be extra enthusiastic if I crack a joke. All right.
Wow.
So, I'm sitting down with Sean Bagshaw, Ian Plant, and Michael Shainblum, and you're listening to the Landscape Photography Podcast. So we are live in Oregon. We are in Newport, Oregon. We've all been photographing seascapes and forests and lighthouses. We've all been photographing in the rain, giving all of these beautiful people a taste of what it's like to be in the Pacific Northwest, getting completely soaked. Now you see why everybody wears a raincoat in the Pacific Northwest. So one of the things I wanted to talk about with these guys, because I want to hear their voices, not mine, is some of the things that, came up often in our excursions. A lot of times when we're leading these excursions and we're dealing with different groups of people, at least I find myself repeating the same things a lot. I'm giving the same advice to different groups of people, and I want to see what kinds of advice these guys have been giving in their excursion. So Ian, who also has to leave a little bit early today, he's going to abandon us.
I apologize. I have to catch a flight, and I just want to say ahead of time before I leave that it's been an absolute pleasure meeting all of you. I'd say I made a lot of new good friends, but it feels more like family. So thank you very much for making this an awesome conference.
This guy. He's so sentimental. He gets really emotional with these things.
I'll probably start crying. So, but that's mainly because I'm just so exhausted right now. So I think the most common question that I got while leading excursions here was, I've fallen, can you help me up? As you know, the Oregon coast is a very slippery place. But the most common thing that I see when I'm leading workshops generally, the most common bit of advice I give to people is to get closer to their subject, to their foregrounds, particularly in landscape. A lot of folks tend to just kind of shoot at eye level, and I think it's part of the biggest challenges is convincing people that the world is much more interesting when you're a foot away from your foreground subject, and it's the key to making really dynamic and compelling composition. So I'm always saying closer, closer, closer. Just get in your face.
Mm-hmm. That was one of my favorite things, was actually physically dragging people down to the water and force them to get knee deep in the water. Not only is it fun and exhilarating, but you end up getting a lot more impactful shots because the viewer, as they view that photo, feels like they're in the water with you. I love that about seascape photography. How about you, Sean?
I got a lot of questions on shutter speed. Like, what kind of shutter speed? I think, for people that live maybe on the West Coast or the East Coast or somewhere where you photograph on the shore a lot, you've had time to practice that, and you kind of have an idea of what different shutter speeds do with different water motion and waves and that kind of stuff. But I think a lot of the folks maybe that are out here on the Oregon coast for the first time, that was a real new idea for them. Like, oh, okay, my shutter speed really matters in a different way than it usually does. And what is the right shutter speed? So that was a big question that came up a lot. And my answer to that is always all of them. Just try a lot of different shutter speeds and experiment and have fun with it. And then go back and look at your images later and see which one you like. Which one did it the way you wanted it.
Yeah, and kind of like what I was talking about in my multiple rants during this conference is how much shutter speed plays a role in like the feeling and the energy of a shot. That slower shutter speed oftentimes gives a more calm, peaceful feeling. A really long shutter speed, minutes long, it feels like there's zero movement, zero anything. But if you have that faster shutter speed, it's a bit more of that frantic, energetic feeling. And it's amazing how much that shutter speed has an influence on the feeling and the energy of a shot. How about you, Michael?
Yeah, for sure. So, sorry. So I just kind of popped in.
Mic etiquette.
Oh, no. So I've been here a few days. I wasn't initially part of the conference, but I just stopped in to say hi
he
on
crashed
my way
the party
up through Oregon. So thank you so much.
He's just here for the free food.
Pretty much. No, thank you so much for the warm welcome. It's been really awesome. I would say, the weather played a pretty interesting role here, right? I mean, a lot of the times when we're shooting landscape photography, especially early on, we kind of think, well, it's raining, it's really windy, it's really cold. I don't think I'm going to go outside. I think I'll stay inside and edit other pictures. But, I know, at least for myself, and probably these guys too, we look at the really windy conditions and all the rain, and we're like, this is kind of exciting. I think we're going to get some good stuff. Yeah. So really poor weather can make for really interesting situations, like big waves and moody skies. So, I definitely encourage people, if it looks like the forecast is bad, maybe try and go outside. Just make sure to cover your camera, especially if it's a Sony.
I just want to
yeah.
All right.
I just want to point out, Michael, that literally the moment you started speaking, the sun came out. You could see it coming through the window there.
Well, we got to stay inside now.
Here
the conditions aren't bad enough.
There's a lot of amazing things about these conferences, and we'll talk a lot about that. But one of the challenging things when we're all going out and we're all shooting in the mornings and the evenings is that we have to kind of spread out the group. And because we're spreading out the group, we're kind of committed to a location. And one of the things that I'm sure these guys will probably agree with on some level is that when the weather gives you one thing, you have to react and adapt to it. And one of the beautiful parts of the Oregon coast is the fact that, like, if you get a big, beautiful sunset, you can obviously go photograph just about anything. It's going to look great. But, you can head down to the beach. You can work with the reflections, the wide-angle compositions. But when the weather doesn't give you that, a place like the Oregon coast gives you options. You can go into a forest when it's foggy. You can do all kinds of things. Sean, what are some of the things that you like to do to make the most of a photo trip, or you have a small window of time to do photography? How do you make the most of it?
Well, I think, it's one of those things when you're on a photo trip, short or long, one of the great things is that if it's a real photo trip, you don't have anything else to do. So
Right, yeah.
One of the great things that maximizes for me as a photo trip is basically just being able to hang out all day from, before sunrise till after sunset. Mm-hmm. And when that moment comes, like the sun just came out there for a minute, and just be ready to act whenever that happens. And that's why I find that when I am on a dedicated photo trip and I have nothing else to do, I'm always amazed at just about any day, any type of weather, any location, there's opportunities if you just stay out there and be, kind of be in the moment with it and watch. However, like when it does rain really hard, like we had that rain the last day or so, it becomes really hard to make, even no matter how long you wait around to make a photograph, or even to just keep water off your lens. But I will say that places like on the Oregon coast with harbors and things, I had a group yesterday morning which was awesome. We went out in the rain. It rained the whole time, but we were on the Newport Harbor. We were there before dark. There was no sunrise, but they light up the harbor. It's a working harbor with harbor lights, and it was beautiful. We got great photos. Really looks great. So there's always something you can find.
Yeah, like last night, I took my group down to photograph the bridge from multiple angles because we ended up hiking down one side. Well, let's go to the other side. Oh, no, let's go back to the first side. But even though we weren't going to get any kind of sky, any kind of interest in the sky, you can kind of make the most of the conditions just by thinking about what will be photogenic in these conditions. And we weren't given much for sky, but I knew that once we were kind of in blue hour, all of those lights would start reflecting off all the wet sand and all the wet rocks and stuff. And we ended up getting, I think, pretty good images. I haven't actually looked at them, but I'm assuming we got some good images last night. Ian, how do you maybe talk a little bit about adapting with weather and how important that is for maximizing your fruitfulness, your productiveness?
Yeah, I mean, weather is absolutely the most important thing for landscape photography. Composition is also absolutely the most important thing for landscape photography. The three most important things for landscape photography. I mean, for all of us, I think weather plays a key role. I like to tell people that moisture is the secret to great landscape photography, because moisture creates clouds, creates stunning atmospheric events like rainbows. Water as an element of a composition can be really powerful. Reflections are always a great thing to do. So I'm always very religious about checking the weather, and in particular, I get excited when storms come through in and out. I mean, granted, you're going to have some time where you're just getting rained on, and maybe you can't be that productive, but it's the edges of these weather systems that really bring the most unique and compelling conditions for landscape photography. And it's just so important with so many grand landscape near-far scenes to have something interesting going on in the sky. The clouds create shapes that you can use in your compositions, and you can find interesting foregrounds that will mirror or complement those shapes. And if you're lucky at sunrise and sunset, the clouds will capture color, bounce a lot of that color down onto the landscape. That's when you're going to get the most stunning landscape photos. So, absolutely, I pray for bad weather. I always say that, the tourists love the sunny days, but photographers hate them. So.
Yeah, absolutely. How about you, Michael?
Yeah, definitely bad weather. I think it's important to kind of adapt to whatever the situation is too. Like if you book a trip a year in advance to go somewhere really interesting, and then it looks like it's going to be clear every day, well, you're going to have to deal with that. And you could sit in the hotel and just kind of do nothing, or you could try and make it work to your advantage and get images out of it. And sometimes you'll find that, in those conditions that you weren't expecting, you might take images you're really proud of. Like, clear days. If you're not getting those skies that you were hoping for, maybe try and shoot things that don't rely on the sky, and you can get some interesting abstract images, especially in places like Death Valley. A lot of images there, you don't really need a sky. You just kind of look down at the different rocks and the patterns, so I would just say, depending on whatever the conditions give you, just try and work with that. And I know it's hard sometimes because you think about your trip and you're like, I have this set goal of what I want to capture. You have these images in your head, and it's hard to get away from that. It's hard to break from that and find something new. But I'd encourage you, if you go on a trip, just kind of work with what you got, and you can make something really cool.
Yeah, and it's amazing, like good photographers like these guys that I'm lucky enough to be sitting next to, they are so good at just rolling with the punches of the conditions. You see it. I see it a lot when I get to shoot with people like these guys, is that the weather apps are, when you get four serious photographers all sitting in a coffee shop, like conversing, all they're really doing is like scrolling on a weather app, and they're just constantly obsessed with the weather. And for me, like, interesting weather is what excites me. I can go to pretty much any average compositional place. It could be a hill with a tree, but you give me some like really dramatic weather rolling through that scene, and it completely changes the feeling and the impact of that place. So another cool thing about being at these conferences, whether you're a participant or an instructor, is just getting to like rub elbows with all of the amazing people here. We have people like, Aaron Bobnick, we got Gavin Hardcastle over here, these guys. What are some of your takeaways from just like shooting with the participants and hanging out with some of the other instructors? Like, are there any memories? What memories would you like to share, Ian? Like, let's try to get sentimental here. What memories do you have, or what key takeaways do you have of like this week?
Well, in terms of the participants here, I've just been really impressed by everyone's enthusiasm and optimism, even when the weather went really bad. Yeah. I also, with the other instructors, it's great to see so many different perspectives. Everyone's got a different way of approaching things. And this is really just a creative mixing bowl when you're in one of these conferences, and especially the way that they're running things here with the Out of Chicago conferences. There are a lot of opportunities for folks to mix, rub elbows, trade ideas, just get out there and be creative, which is probably why we're all so exhausted right now. Yeah. And actually, on this note, I'm going to have to say my goodbyes so I can go and catch my flight. So it's been an absolute pleasure rubbing elbows with all of you in the Creative Mixing Bowl. But right now, I literally have to get as far away as humanly possible from everyone. So, but it's been a lot of fun. Thank you very much, and thank you, Nick, for having me on.
I wish that we could all make like a dramatic exit like that. Like, you're just gonna clap for all of us at the same time. It's not gonna be quite the same. Right. Well, why don't we have Gavin come sit in this seat?
Oh, imagine.
I do.
What?
Those are beautiful shorts you have.
Yeah.
There's a reason why I look like this. You weren't here earlier, but there's a reason why I have makeup on.
Gavin, you had like 45 minutes. You couldn't put on pants.
It's pretty much just his Thursday attire. Yeah. So Gavin, what key takeaways do you have from your time here? Like, are there any particular shoots that stand out to you, or anything like that?
Well, it turns out that I'm now addicted to wave photography because I've never really seen waves like that, or been lucky enough to shoot those. And I remember that very first morning that we went out, and I can see some of the guys that I was with over there. It was it couldn't have been more perfect. And I must have shot nearly 3,000 frames, and so now that's like it's just ignited this new passion.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be probably chasing waves now for the next few days. And that's something that I'll take with me, and I think it's going to be an ongoing passion. So, and it was really good to see you guys go through the exact same experience and be like, oh! I mean, there was one point where we were just cheering as if it was fireworks. Oh my God! You know?
Yeah.
So that's a magic moment that I got to share with you guys. And yeah, it's a new addiction. And then, of course, hanging out with you, Rabble. That was quite fun, and it turns out that Sean Bagshaw is the funniest guy in the world.
Yeah. There's definitely going to be a Photo Tripper episode coming from this week. I think
you'll enjoy that.
Oh.
How about you, Sean?
Well, I always say when I do anything like this is that I love coming to these things because if I wasn't here, I'd be out there. I'm just a geek with a camera, and I feel always when I come to these, like, these are my people. These are all the people that like what I like.
You're all geeks too.
Yeah. So for me, I just love being able to be here and meet all of you.
Yeah.
And, everyone, we just like this thing called photography, and it's so fun to be able to get together and share that with each other. Super fun. Had some great experiences out with different groups, but I think the one that was really special was Gavin and I went down to Thor's Well at Cape Perpetua, and all the high tides were in the middle of the day this week. So we thought, well, let's just go down there in the middle of the day. The light probably won't be good, but at least we can see Thor's Well doing its thing that it does. But we got there, and there was this kind of bright, kind of highlight overcast, but with some texture in the sky. The waves in the well were perfect. They weren't dangerous, but they were very photogenic, and waves on the other rocks and things. And so we got a lot of people out there right up on the edge of Thor's Well, and it was I think it was a really fun, exciting experience. Everyone came away from that just kind of on this real buzz. So that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's my favorite part of, especially like leading workshops along the coast and stuff, is just watching other people experience that stuff for the first time. Because, when you get to shoot it a lot, you kind of forget how exciting it was the very first time. And, I took a group to the Seal Rock, and just taking people down in the water, and like when they're first getting in, their eyes are all big, and they're like, I don't know if this is a good idea, Nick. and one guy, and just watching that, that bug-eyed like look of concern slowly turn into just a ear-to-ear grin, and they're like liking the movement they're seeing on the back of the camera, and then watching their cameras get splashed and destroyed. But that's a little bit of an evil joy for me. But I love seeing the enthusiasm and the excitement. I feel like we all kind of feed off of it. Those mornings when you don't really want to get up, it's made better by watching how excited other people are about stuff. How about you, Michael?
Yeah, I think my favorite thing so far, or just through this, has been hearing everyone's stories. Like, I think about how I got to photography and how I kind of fell in love with it and made it my life, and then just hearing everyone else's stories and where they got here or how they got here was just really interesting. And then, also with social media, it's like I know all the professors already before meeting them, but it's just, it's a little picture and they're typing, and it's cool to actually, talk to everyone and have those real connections. So, it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah,
It's really cool.
absolutely. It's so much fun just being surrounded by other people that share your same interests. And we're all here to have fun and enjoy ourselves. And it's just an awesome atmosphere. So we're going to pass the microphone around for anybody that has a question for the panel. So if you do have a question for the panel, raise your hand. We'll bring a mic over. Are we able to also take questions off the YouTubes? Okay. So yeah, just so grab a couple off of there and we'll do whatever we got to do. So anybody have a question? It's going to be real awkward if nobody has a question. So please, God, have a question.
Come on, Nick. You're the question guy. Nick can keep it rolling for hours.
Sure. So let's, all right, we have a question.
Glitter you've got
Thank
on your
you.
face right now.
You like it,
I
don't you?
can't take it seriously.
Gavin Hardcastle said, he's never seen waves like this before, and clearly you've all been to those, and I'll use the term iconic, the Icelands and all these other different places. So if there's one place on the planet that you like to go shoot,
I hate this question.
I know you do. But if you had the opportunity, given the opportunity, where would you go?
Of the places we have been or haven't been?
Haven't not been.
Have not
Anywhere
been.
you've not been yet.
Mesa Arch.
Yeah.
All the
Yeah.
way down the line, Mesa Arch. Right?
Exactly.
No.
Mesa Arch is pretty much like the only place I ever shoot. And I hope to just continue to shoot Mesa Arch for the rest of my life. How about you, Gavin?
There's a desert in Algeria. I think it's the Algerian desert. And
Where'd they come up with that name?
you don't see that many pictures of it, but it's very reminiscent of Monument Valley and other parts of Utah, Arizona, Nevada. It's very similar to that, but it has a whole different exotic vibe to it. And I guess it's because you don't see that many pictures of it that on the very rare occasion when I do spot one, it's like, oh, that feeling that you get where you see an image and it's almost like you can hear these bells ringing and these calculations go, okay, flight, car rental, perhaps a guide, hotels. That's going to be eight grand minimum, and that's how fast it is. And it comes from one image that you'll see. And that's it. You're making plans and off you go. So that's on my to-do list. But I'm sure like all you guys, right, and probably everybody in this room, I have a little text document on my computer that every time I go on any kind of social media, it's, where's that? Add it to the list. And the list is ever expanding. I mean, if I live to be 2,000 years old, maybe I'll hit everything. But there's only so many places you can go, right? So you've got to prioritize. And also there's that thing about trying to be productive. As a professional, and especially as a vlogger, you've kind of got to be prolific. You've got to keep churning out material. Otherwise, people forget that you're there, right? And so it's like this balancing act between keeping a high standard and also being able to churn out a lot of material. And so your travel plans are often based on, okay, how much can I get out of that trip? If that trip is going to cost me 10 grand and I only get one image, it could be the best image you ever take in your life. And then to me, that's worth it, right? But then at the same time, we're also running businesses here. So there has to be a return on investment. So I actually am very envious of my clients because a lot of my clients who do my workshops or one-on-ones, they're usually a lot wealthier than I am. And they're often in a position where they could say, well, I don't care about losing money. I don't care about getting a return on my investment. It's all about getting that shot, that portfolio piece, or making that memory and getting that experience. So I'm very envious of people that are in that position because as a professional, we're kind of limited to, we have to get a return on that investment. But the Algerian desert, check that out.
That was the longest answer to that question that could ever.
We have a bunch of, we're monitoring the feed.
All right. Got a question from YouTube?
A bunch of questions here. A lot of comments about Gavin.
Is it all Adam?
Is it about his makeup or his pink shorts?
Yeah, I think the shorts made it.
Yeah.
So one question here: how do you protect your camera gear in this kind of weather? What do you do?
Well, I don't. So because I shoot Sony, a lot of people ask me, well, how's the weather sealing on that? And, how many cameras have you killed? And while I haven't killed any Sony cameras yet, Most of them malfunction in some way.
You've injured them
I've
badly.
injured their souls. I find that the most important little tiny accessory that you can have for probably any camera when shooting around this salt water is to make sure that you have those little hot shoe cover things, because inside that hot shoe you not only have electrical contacts, but you have like that metal that's going to get super corroded. And on Sony cameras you actually have like a little set of contacts for all the little fancy mics that you can put in there. So even though I had my cover on, a little bit of water still got in there, and it started like doing this accessory not accepted, accessory not supported thing. But I know that some people will shoot with like a rain cover, but honestly, it's so cumbersome to shoot with that I never do. I just make sure that I have a towel or a microfiber towel handy to wipe stuff down if I do get splashed. Do you guys do anything different than that?
I think that's pretty much the same. Yeah, I mean, if I'm going to go out and shoot, if I decide it's worth it, then it's worth maybe potentially damaging a camera. I think we're in a different position than some people.
Right.
If that's the only camera,
we just have 15 cameras on the shelf at home, so it's not a big deal.
Right. Well, not that so much, but it goes back to what Gavin said: is return on investment. If we're out to get a shot and we have to sacrifice or damage some equipment because that's kind of part of our work, that's one thing. But in general, I just try to be as careful as I can, keep it dry as much as I can. And if it's not good conditions, it's not worth sacrificing a camera for, don't get the camera out.
Exactly.
But on the other hand, if it's amazing, but it might get a wave that comes up over and takes my camera out, that's a risk that I weigh and probably take it.
Yep. We're more sentimentally attached to the photo we get than the camera we use to get it, I think. Cool. Any other questions rolling in? We got questions from...
Actually, a lot of questions.
Eric,
sorry.
You guys are outnumbered.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, let's take another one from here. Eric is asking, what's a top tip for transitioning from career to full-time photography?
Let's throw this over to maybe Michael.
Oh, me?
Yeah. Wake up, Michael.
I've only ever done
Michael never transitioned. He was born a professional photographer.
That's true.
Oh man, I may not actually have very much experience on this.
All right, how about Gavin?
Yeah, it's a scary thing. I mean, any career change is a scary thing. And I think, most of the people that I know that have done this have been able to do it because either they have a very supportive partner that's willing to carry them during that period of time where it really does take a few years before you start to make a living, let alone make a very good living. Or if you have savings, or if you have residual income of some kind, like from a previous business or something like that. I mean, that's how I did it. I had a little bit of residual income from a previous career that still to this day gives me a little bit, but it's not much, but it was just enough that I could, you do a few calculations, you make some adjustments to your income and your outgoings, and then you figure it out. But it's definitely something you shouldn't rush. No. And if you are going to go down that road, really plan it out, or get a very rich partner like Adam Gibbs.
For me, when I first went full time, it was a gradual thing. I was working my day job, Monday through Friday, and then all weekend long I was doing photo shoots. I was photographing babies and families and weddings and stuff. And I was never comfortable or brave enough to leave my day job until I was actually making more during that weekend than I was during my week at my day job. And it was at that point that I was like, how much further could I take this if I had Monday through Friday to, market and to grow and develop. So it wasn't until I already had a successful photography business that I felt comfortable actually quitting that day job. Yep. Any other questions out here? No. Any other questions over? We got one. Got Marty here.
So one of the joys as a participant is the experience of surprise, either like the surprise that I got into the water to take that picture, or I got the picture. Is there anything about what you guys are doing? I know it's a business for you, but is there anything that where you're getting the joy of surprise, which I think all of us as participants inevitably experience at least once during the course of this conference?
How about you, Michael?
Yeah, every time I shoot, It's like, I don't think I would do this as a career if it wasn't what I wanted to do every single day. I think that's the only reason it's just that much fun. So yeah, I get surprised. I mean, every trip pretty much, like big waves, even just yesterday going out for an hour and shooting the waves, it was just the excitement of seeing these crashing waves and the wind gusts, and you had to hold on to the tripod so that the camera doesn't knock over. I mean, it's just a blast. So, I mean, there are a lot. There's a lot of more practical ways to make money than to be a professional photographer.
Yeah.
So really, in order to do it full time, you have to just breathe that life. But it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, because if you don't have the passion to live and breathe it, and you don't get super excited every time you go out, you're going to burn out. You do anything that much, if you don't love it, you're going to get burnt out. That's why we all hate day jobs. Do we have any other questions, Roland? And we got one from YouTube here.
From Scott. What is the one thing you learned in processing that helped your photography the most in processing?
Sean Bagshaw.
Oh boy, yeah, I learned to hang out with really good photographers. I think for me the thing in image developing, and that's kind of something that I really love about photography as much as the photography itself, and I don't think that's any secret, that the developing piece is something I really enjoy and really get into, and I also love teaching it. So I do thank the people who I learned from, who were very kind to teach me. But I think for me, when digital photography started, I've been a film shooter. I was a very bad film shooter. And I think I missed my generation. I should have been in the Ansel Adams darkroom black and white era, because those photographers had the ability to develop their images. And then we went through kind of this period of time where it was a lot of transparency, slide film, that kind of stuff, where you had to get it in camera, and that became kind of the mantra: get it in the camera. But I was never a get it in the camera guy because I wasn't good at that. And as soon as digital came along, I think the thing that was the most energizing for me and freeing was the realization that I could develop my images again at all, and really the opportunities were pretty much limitless, and that was so amazing to me. That's what really turned me into a photographer. Before that, I liked to take pictures, but it was to try to document things. So that's not any one thing, but just that realization that I can do really whatever I want with my photos now. And so just trying to learn as much as possible and really take that to heart. Like, what do I want to do with my photos?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be what the camera saw.
Yeah, post-processing is like all about having this toolbox available to you. You have this toolbox over here, and when we first start using the tools in the toolbox, we're like, smashing thumbnails and like we're making a mess of things. But once you get better with all of the tools that you learn in post-processing, the more you know when and where to use them and how much. Mm-hmm. And just for me, the enjoyment of post-processing is just seeing that little bit of growth and knowing what's possible, and it completely changes the way you shoot. And when you first start to be out in the field and thinking about what's possible in post-processing, and you have an idea like, oh, I'm going to make sure I focus stack this and get that darker frame for an exposure blend, and then you go back and you do it and it's a success. It's such a great feeling to know that you had that vision from the very start. It like changes the way you shoot, changes photography in general for you. It's just a really fun part of the process.
Yeah, it's that realization that you have to shoot for your processing.
Yeah.
And when you have that processing knowledge, just like Nick said, when you're out in the field, it's liberating. And you already know, you already have visualized the steps that it's going to take to put this image together when you get it back home in Photoshop. You shoot for your processing, and when you've got that knowledge and that little bit of experience, it's almost like I can do anything now. I've got all of my bracketed exposures. Perhaps you've done a whole bunch of focus stacked shots. You've got everything that you need, and you can just relax and know that that's on my hard drive, and I can just make the perfect image from it later. So shoot for your processing. That's why I always say.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Here's a question from Adam Gibbs.
Oh, not that
Uncle.
guy. No, we're not. Next question.
No, bring it through, lad. No, bring it through.
What's more important to you, the image or the experience?
Ooh, that's
Yeah,
a
I
hard
gotta
one.
think on that.
Can I?
Yeah.
Are you ready
Well,
to go?
if you.
I got that
All
one. Hands down experience for me. The only reason I'm in photography is because of the experiences. I was a amateur mountaineer and climber, and I was having experiences in the mountains in the wilderness, and those experiences were so powerful and kind of life.
Was this in the '60s?
Yeah, thank you. I am the oldest one up here by far. That's true, but it was a ways back. Yeah, I don't. Anyway, but those experiences made me want to take photographs of them. And so now the photograph, if I get a good photograph that somehow communicates that experience, that's a bonus for me. But really, I go out, and if I don't bring a camera, or if I don't take it out, don't take a photograph, but I have an experience, that's the most important thing for me. The photograph is a nice kind of bonus and extra.
Yeah, I mean, we've all had those mornings where the light might not have been great. We might not have even taken photos, but being out there was just a great experience. Like, not every great experience ends in a great photograph. Like, sometimes you're just going out, like our opening morning before the conference started, a group of us went out to Seal Rock, and we're all like climbing on the rocks and getting hit by waves and having a great time, and nobody took a single photo, but it was an awesome morning. And there's lots of those kind of mornings where I think the experience is more important than the photograph. Because the photographs will come when the conditions align, but the conditions are sometimes rare. And the experience of being out there is more important to me.
Yeah, for anything personal, the experience always trumps, the final image. The only thing I'm going to add to that, though, is if it's a commission project, then the image is a lot more important than the experience in that case.
Right.
But for anything personal, it's
Yeah, you can't really deliver an experience to a client, I suppose. All right. Do we have?
I was going to say, from what I know about Adam too, and I know Adam for a long time, I'm guessing he's in the experience column as well.
Yeah, for sure. Like, if there's no T, he's not in.
Yeah.
All right. So more questions out here. Keep them coming. We have one here.
Of all the places that you've been to, which one is your most favorite and why?
I don't like these questions.
Photography in a sense of photography. Okay.
Mesa Arch.
Yeah, why?
Yeah.
Probably the most recent place I've been. That's the thing that sticks out. Like the most recent trip I've had are the most recent experiences, and so that sticks with me. It's hard to, every place is unique,
Right. Like for me, like it's either it's the first time you go almost anywhere. Like there's something special about that first time you go to a place and the conditions align. So like, I have such sentimental attachment to like my first time in Iceland. Is my first time ever traveling outside the United States. It was just an incredible experience. I got to witness beautiful things in a new place. But I have that experience every time I go a new place. So it's hard for me to narrow it down to one particular location, just because for me the excitement is seeing something new for the first time. Because I'm not too nostalgic about stuff, because I'm always looking forward to the next new thing, I guess.
Yeah.
All right. Got any more YouTube questions over here?
Yeah, sure. David is asking, do you find joy in other kinds of photography other than landscape?
No.
No.
No. I absolutely do. I don't know about these guys, but obviously I shoot a few other genres. Like I enjoy wildlife photography, although bears scare me. And I love shooting sports just because it's so completely, it's a different skill set, it's a different experience than landscape photography. Landscape photography is very methodical and you're like trying to set up the shot. In sports, you're just frantically trying to keep up. Like it's always trying to keep up, not miss stuff, be in the right place. Like, oh crap, I have to run down the sideline to get down here. And you're just like a fly on the wall trying to react. And I'm of the belief that shooting other types of photography and other genres of photography makes you better at the stuff that you actually love. So just because I'm a landscape photographer, I actually get better when I shoot other genres because it all feeds off each other. It's different skill sets and makes me a more rounded photographer.
Yeah, it's getting out of your comfort zone, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I think I could definitely get into wildlife photography if I could merely afford the lenses. But that's not going to happen anytime soon. I was talking to Anne last night. I think I could maybe get into macro photography because you sometimes see these macro photography artists that they're almost like miniature landscapes. It's not just here's a dragonfly head. It's here's two ants having a brawl over a twig or whatever. And their scenes, their little dramas unfolding. I love that kind of macro photography. So I could definitely get into that. Yeah.
I think that also when you explore other types of photography, it helps you not to get too burnt out.
Yeah.
Too. It's like trying something new that is completely almost like a mystery to you, and it's something new to explore. And I find that it just gets the creative juices flowing when you do something different, even if it's stuff that you don't plan on publishing, just for yourself. Explore other types of photography.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'll agree with what Nick said, that definitely doing lots of different kinds of photography is a great way to learn and expand, and it's amazing the crossovers of the things you discover doing one type of photography that you can use in another type, but you wouldn't have learned it if you didn't do it. So I started out doing a lot of different things, but now I do pretty much just like doing landscape photography because that's where, that experience, for me, it's about the experience, like I said. So those are the experiences. But I do like, I like cityscape and kind of architectural and cityscape photography. But what I notice is I tend to shoot cityscapes like a landscape,
right.
All of a sudden it's, it's canyons or it's mountains or, that kind of thing. As I'm looking at it like it's a landscape anyway. I hate wildlife photography because every time I try to photograph an animal, it just points its butt at me. Does anybody else have that issue? I have so many pictures of animal butts, so I just quit.
He gets no respect.
No.
So let's take one more question. Let's take one more from out here. We have one more question in the audience.
Once you have that image, how do you promote it? Do you try to sell it, or you just put it up on your webpage, and if someone wants it, that's good? Do you try to get into galleries? I'm sure you'd like to make money selling that picture, but
Yeah.
how do you promote it?
I've tried all those things, and actually all of those. It really, I think, depends on, what are your sensibilities and what are your interests and what are you willing to put your time into. I know people that make a great living selling prints, even though it's, I think, harder now than it's probably ever been.
Right.
But I know photographers who focus on that and have a good strategy for selling prints can do a good job selling prints. For me, promoting is just getting my work out there, and I do a lot of work, but I tend to just work for myself. But every once in a while, print opportunities or licensing opportunities come along. Fortunately, the education and the teaching piece of photography came along for me, and that's the direction I've put most of my effort into. And so the image license, the image sales are a nice kind of side stream of income. So yeah, it looks very different. The way I do it is I have a website, there's social media, sometimes I do gallery shows or things like that, and it's great, but I don't put in nearly the amount of time. I would have to quit all the teaching and coming to conferences, I think, to make my money solely off of just selling my images.
How about you, Michael?
Yeah, I think, just putting it out there as many places as possible. So social media is a good way of getting images out there. But I think as far as selling images, what's really helped me is to create collections out of the trips that I've done, like create a portfolio of images that I can tell a story with. Like I can tell a story about a series of images from a trip, and there's a little bit more meaning there when, you know, it's going to be potentially shared by companies and shared by or not companies, but like news sites and things like that. They're going to look at the story and want to post that as an article, and that ends up getting images in the eyes of potential clients a lot of the times. Social media, it's harder to license images through social media, but agencies are checking out news articles and things like that online. So I found that really helpful, and I just try and drive as much traffic to my website as possible. You know, taking images, posting them on social media, but saying, you know, hey, if you want to check out the full gallery and see more of the story, check out the website. So I try and do that a lot.
I really like that full gallery approach, because there's a lot of people that just are pretty photo collectors, you know, and we have a bunch of photos from all over the place, and it's not very cohesive and together, and you get such a better story from that gallery collection. That's something that I really like. Yeah. So well, I kind of want to end this with, why don't we go down the line and kind of talk about like maybe like the one thing that we would like to leave people with, either from one of our talks or stuff that we found ourselves saying to participants often. Gavin, what is the one thing that you want people to remember about you from this week?
Is it the glitter?
Is it the glitter? Is it the lipstick? Was it the fairy wings?
I don't know if I don't know if I want people to particularly remember anything about me, but I think the only legacy that you can leave on the human race long after you've disappeared is to have inspired people. So if you can post pictures or write books or whatever it is that you create, whether it's making a film, whether it's writing a piece of music, whether it's posting a picture, if you can inspire other human beings to, wow, I want to do that gives me purpose, then that's the best gift you can give to the human race, and it's the only form of immortality that you'll ever get to experience. So that's what I would say.
My God, you went deep with that.
I got goosebumps. I actually got goosebumps.
Can I skip?
Going straight to immortality.
Yeah, Gavin Hardcastle on the serious side.
Exactly. How about you, Michael?
Wow.
You have to follow that. Are you going to offer us immortality?
I don't. Honestly, I would just, you know, with your photography, just try to be open to new possibilities and just play around and be creative. Have fun, because really I think that's the most important part, is just to have fun, be creative, express yourself. You know, put a piece of yourself into your artwork and just try new things, because I know that there was definitely a little time, you know, when I was getting started, where I put myself in a box. I thought that, you know, my audience only wanted to see one kind of picture from me, and I was kind of like stopping myself from being creative and expressing myself, and then I started being like, I want to work on something different. I want to create images that are a little bit different, and I was so scared to put them out, and you know, I talked to a friend about it, and he was like, just do it, man. Just put the images out. What's the worst thing that could happen? I'm like, I'm afraid no one's going to like them. And then I ended up putting the images out, and people were like, wow, this, you know, people really connected with the new work that I was doing. And yeah, I was just scared to, you know, put this new work out there. So, you know, just don't be afraid, play around, have fun. And you never know, something new that you try out that could seem maybe a little weird at first, where you're like, oh, that's kind of a weird picture. You never know, people might really like it. So, you know, just play around, have fun.
Awesome.
Take more pictures.
I think my, if I'm going to give a takeaway, I would say it's be in the moment and enjoy the process. I think it's really easy in photography to get wrapped up in all of the tech and the minutia and the rules and the how's it supposed to look, and am I doing it right, and do I have the right camera, and you know, all of that stuff. Am I in the right place? Am I going to the place that you're supposed to go to photograph? And it's easy to get wrapped up in all of that, or also get focused on some end goal, like, you know, when I get to be able to do this, then I'll have made it as a photographer. And I always try to not think in those terms. I try to think in the terms of, I do this because I like it. It's fun. I enjoy meeting other photographers and being able to interface with people on something that we have a common shared interest in. And to me, that is the thing. So enjoy the process. Every moment I'm doing it, that is the reason. And it doesn't matter if I'm doing it right or wrong. It doesn't matter what camera I have. I mean, those are all details that are involved. But the main thing for me is be in the moment, enjoy the process.
Yeah.
And I also want to take this opportunity, because I don't know if we'll get another chance to say thanks to the Out of Chicago crew for doing
absolutely.
this. Chris, everybody, Ann, Bob, Melinda, you guys are amazing. This has been a wonderful experience. You guys really do a good job.
It really has. And like everybody sitting here right now has just been so positive and so kind. And as instructors, we really feed off of your enthusiasm. We are like enthusiasm vampires. So thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you, Chris, for having us. And I guess we'll end it here. Thank you guys for joining me on this talk. And we'll see you guys in the next episode.
Cheers.
So take it easy, everybody.
All right.